Hello and welcome to our Facebook Live. Really excited to have a good friend of mine, MC Carter, with me today. So while everyone's getting online, and for those that are watching this on replay, hello, we're going to be covering the 3 gears of digital marketing today. So MC, I might just give everyone a few more seconds before we kick off. But cool. Do you want to, while we are waiting for everyone, do you want to just introduce who is MC? Who is MC Carter? Give us a little bit of a background about yourself.
Sure. Let me just get that page to read it off. No, by the way, first up, people call me MC because it was a nickname that I was dubbed with years ago that I vehemently protested against, and then it stuck ever since. So my mother calls me Michael, but most people in business call me MC. And I'm a digital marketing strategist, specifically for accounting and business advisory accounting firms. So we don't deal with all types of accounting firms because, as we know, there's lots of types. So we deal with those that are focused on small business advisory and digital marketing strategy and content to help them generate inbound leads so that people line up at their door rather than they have to pound the proverbial pavement looking for clients.
Excellent. Now, I've known you digitally for many, many years, but we actually first met in person, I think 2 years ago. Funny enough, we're both from Australia, but we met in San Jose for QB Connect.
That's
in person
right.
was the first time. So of all places, we met over there. But marketing is one of my favorite topics. I think that a lot of accountants struggle with this. They're great technicians, but they really struggle with the how. And there's so many different ways. And there's lots of noise, I think, in the industry too by so-called experts that you would question whether they are. So we've put together this series, this 3 gears of digital marketing. So we're doing a live today. We're doing a live on Friday at the same time and on Tuesday next week. So really excited to get into the content. So what are the 3 gears of digital marketing, MC?
Okay, well, quickly off the top, there's strategy, presence, and cadence. And I'll come back and I'll explain each of those in a moment. Today, we'll focus on the first gear of strategy. But just to go up a level to explain why we developed this model of the 3 gears of digital marketing is firstly to explain to accountants who are understandably very logical and analytical, and they like structure and reason. And marketing can sometimes seem like some sort of black box of mystique, this creative endeavor that many accountants will run a mile from. So our approach to marketing is that it is quite logical if you do things in the right sequence. And what I've been seeing, Nick, and everyone over the years is accountants, I'll use the phrase, get preyed upon by vendors of what I would call silver bullets. So they've got an app. They've got some solution that they're selling, go along to a conference, go along to a trade display. There's hundreds of these exhibitors there all telling you that their silver bullet is the answer to their accounting firm's growth problem challenges. But what I've noticed is that putting the cart ahead of the horse is where they would dive into something like social media or doing content, and they weren't clear on elements of their strategy, such as, well, who is our target audience? What's the ideal message? What should we even be saying before we start publishing blog posts and social posts? So, for people to put that cart ahead of the horse really is a waste of time, money, and energy. So that's why we developed this model of the 3 gears that need to be done in sequence.
And I think that's a critical point because a lot of people spray out marketing. If they do something, it's a roller coaster ride and they just spray it out and then they stop because they get too busy. And when they are spraying it out, they're not actually targeting who they want as a client. They're just spraying it out to anyone. But I think one of the biggest challenges that I see is that people just don't understand what strategy is. And their strategy is, well, I get all of my new clients from referrals. Well, I love that one, but I really dislike when people say it because what business globally that is successful just relies on referrals? I don't know any.
Absolutely. I've got a little slide with the Medal of Honor for when people say, all my business comes from a referral. 2 things on that. Well, congratulations, you do know marketing. Yeah. And that is not to downplay the importance of referrals. Clearly you want them, but they don't have to be the sole lead source, do they? I was listening to a podcast the other day. 2 guys out of New York were talking, and the guy being interviewed, what he did for a living was he bought businesses where the owner of the business proudly in the due diligence process said, oh yeah, all of our customers come from word of mouth. So he would buy the business, apply marketing, triple the revenue and sell it. So, anyone who's not actively marketing themselves really is just coasting along and are underperforming their potential. Now, If someone's happy coasting along, that's fine. Not everyone does want to grow. That's cool. But anyone who does want to grow above a default rate needs to learn marketing. And not only is it not taught to accountants, I think it's taught in some of the PY programs. I've been involved in some of them. It's pretty old school, the ways that are still being taught to accountants. And it's a brave new digital era that we're in. When we started 11 years ago, Nick, the phrase digital marketing wasn't even a phrase. Wasn't even
cool then.
It wasn't a thing. No one had coined it. So I started Paradox because I saw the things like social media, blogging coming in, and I saw businesses in different industries using this way of communicating in an educational style. I thought this would be perfect, absolutely perfect for accounting firms who want to do advisory, because we all know that the small business owners out there don't rock up, knock on the door of the accounting firm and go, you know what I want? I want some, ongoing forecasting, cash flow management. They don't know what they don't know, so they need to be educated. And I thought this would be a great way to market, but at the same time, educate people to create that pull demand. And I fully expected to find someone on the globe that was specializing in these new forms of marketing for accountants. Fully expected to find it, but I didn't. And at the time I was with Business Fitness, a company I co-founded in 2001. And I just saw the need and the gap and thought the world needs it. So that's why I started Paradox all those years ago.
It's a great thing. So we're talking about the 3 gears of digital marketing, and the first one today being strategy. So strategy is a big word. What does it actually mean in simple terms?
Yeah, it's one of those things in life that simple doesn't mean easy. Strategy is fundamentally simple. And I'll give a framework today, and later on I'll mention a checklist, a free document that people can download to get the framework. But with strategy, it's not taught explicitly, and a lot of people often confuse the difference between an objective and a strategy. So the objective is to have this much revenue, profitability, size by this date, and that's all valid. But they're objectives. That'd be like a coach saying, okay, guys, our strategy today is we're going to get more points than the other team. Yeah, great strategy, coach, super coach. Thanks so much. Get out of the dressing room. Whereas the strategy, the simplest way I explain strategy, Nick, is it's just how you're going to win. It's how you're going to outcompete. It's how you're going to stand out in the market, not by the old ways of like a unique selling proposition. If anyone's heard of the old USP, listening to us now, where everyone says we're different, we're more experienced, we're more professional, we're more caring, blah, blah, blah. They're all saying, hey, we're different in the same way. Whereas strategy is about standing out by not saying that you're better than anyone else, but primarily through focus of what you're doing.
Well, I look on LinkedIn all the time, and the amount of accountants that say not your traditional accountant or new age accountant or, cloud tech, and it's like you're all saying the same thing. What's it actually mean? So my question to you is, where do you see accounting firms going wrong with their strategy?
Okay, well, firstly, I think not seeking education and a framework around it, because that's fundamentally important, or having a half-baked strategy where people think, niching, or those of you listening to us in North America, niching. People think that niching is just pick an industry. And it's not enough to broadly define a strategy. And, the classic one, Nick, is when we ask people, what's your target market? They go, small businesses. And depending on the country they're in, if they're in Australia, I'll say, congratulations, get in that queue of 10,000 other firms that have that same small business target market. It's just a recipe for getting lost in a grey sea of sameness. So having a very focused strategy, when we help people define their strategy on target buyer personas, and today I'll talk about 5 different areas of strategy. The first one's who. And target buyer personas, people may have heard of them, or sometimes they're called avatars. And we've actually got 32 different data points or traits or aspects, 32 points for each target buyer persona, which is an imaginary description of the ideal client for a firm. 32 different things, not just they run a small business or they're in tourism and hospitality. It's not enough. So that's the first thing, is to go super granular about who they are, how they think, what are their pain points, what are their aspirations, how do you reach them, who are their influences, what are the phrases they say to each other commonly on a day-to-day basis about either their ambitions or their frustrations, to really, really understand the target market. And if you're listening to that description there, you can understand then what's the point of creating content that you want people to really gravitate to and think, oh, yes, you're speaking to me. if you're not speaking to someone very specific. So, the word audience gets used a lot in marketing these days, and it's a good way to think about it. Who is the audience? And it's not everyone, and it's not everyone in small business.
I 100% agree. And I mean, you can go into where are they hanging out, like all those different things. But understanding who is so critical. And that's where we generally, when I ask this question to a lot of business owners, not just in the accounting space and bookkeeping, it's like, who is your target customer? It almost leads to anyone with a heartbeat.
Which I love that line.
You're just attracting problems. I mean, and I always put it this best, who do you serve the best? Who are you built to serve the best? Because ultimately we're here to serve our clients. And what type of people do you enjoy working with? Who do you add the most value to? And who do you want to pick up the phone every time they ring, as opposed to going, oh, it's John again. I really don't want to take this call. It's an interesting one.
Exactly.
So what comes after the who? So now we know who our ideal target is. What's the next step?
Well, the logical next step is, how do you want to be perceived by those people? And in particular, how do you want to be perceived relative to their other choices? So the other choices is primarily your competition, but other forms of competition in certain service areas like bookkeeping might be, I'll do it myself, or my partner or spouse will do it. So that's called positioning. And it's it's a little bit of an abstract area, but we help our clients when we do the strategy fast track, which is a process we do in the first month with each new client. We do the target buyer persona, then positioning. We map them out in a perceptual map where we explain to people, you can't be all things to all people, because people will pigeonhole you as a person, a professional, a brand, a business. You can't be in all of the pigeonholes. And people pigeonhole or categorize things in their life because it makes their life easier moving forward, so they don't have to reanalyze everything every time. So if you're going to be pigeonholed, you should choose the pigeonhole. So with perceptual maps, where we work out, okay, your brand can't be seen as the traditional, been in this town for 80 years, and be the maverick using the latest technology, pushing the envelope. You can't be both of those things. So you choose their opposing traits. So choose which of those traits do you want to be. You don't have to be extreme, but somewhere on the spectrum, be really clear. And likewise with pricing, you can't be seen as the premium provider and a budget provider. You can't be, though I see it all the time. Firms say, oh, we're not the most expensive, and nor are we the least expensive. In other words, we'll be whatever the price is to get the job. Wherever you want. And again, specialist generalist, you can't be a generalist and a specialist. So that positioning exercise of where do you want to be positioned in the market? And the nice thing about that, I love that book. It's kind of old now. It's 15, 16 or more years, the Blue Ocean Strategy. And the simple metaphor of that book, if anyone's listening hasn't read it, get it. Blue Ocean Strategy, a couple of authors. And the metaphor is simple. The ocean's enormous. So the market is the ocean. It's enormous. And rather than say, we're a small business accountant and we're not the most expensive and, we're not this, we're not that, same as everyone else, they call that thrashing about in the bloodied waters of competition.
Yep,
that's head-on competition. Yeah, the red ocean. Don't be there. Pick a patch of blue ocean that's calm and serene and beautiful. And that way you're not competing head-on, and allows you as a business to have healthier margins. And as you mentioned earlier, Nick, just clients that really are your sweet spot, that you really like enjoying and that you're really suited to adding a lot of value to.
It's interesting you mentioned that book. I'm actually reading it again. There's a new version of it. So they've just brought out, I don't know how long ago they brought it out, but it's a new version. It's something like Blue Ocean Strategy Relaunch, or I'm about a third of the way through it. And I listened to the CDs. This is how long ago I listened to Blue Ocean Strategy. I listened to it on CDs.
Right.
So I don't know how to use them anymore, but
or as our children call them, coasters.
Yes. So it's interesting. So what comes after, once we identify obviously who our market is or who we want to serve, and then where they are, what's the next step?
Well, the next thing, after being clear on who you want, how you want to be perceived, is what's your message to them? What are you selling? So value proposition is a very succinct articulation of what are the outcomes, what are the results you help someone achieve. I see so many websites done by the cookie cutter providers, the low cost websites for accountants providers who have all these templates, and they even ask the accounting firms to fill out a Microsoft Word document to give them the content. And anyway, it's saying, welcome to our website. Great. Or they're saying, just their own firm name across the top as the headline. And that might make people in the firm feel warm and fuzzy seeing their own name, but there's no benefit, no outcome there. So we help them get really clear on what do they do and for whom in terms of the outcomes. And the difference between a website that has a strong value proposition and one that has an anti blah, blah, welcome to our website messaging is it's day and night. It's the single biggest influence on whether a website converts a visitor into someone who clicks through and goes further or just clicks back within 3 seconds. So that value proposition, it does require a professional copywriter who's good at that. And a lot of copywriters, wordsmiths, aren't good at it. They might be good at blog posts. They might be good at other aspects. The value proposition is a real art. But as a business owner, you need to understand how to give the brief to the copywriter to nail an amazing value proposition, which you can't do if you're not clear on your target buyer personas and your positioning. But you give them a great brief and they'll come up with something that, I love that line out of the Jerry Maguire movie, with Tom Cruise's character, Jerry Maguire, in the lift. And he does this big spiel to her and she just says, you had me at hello.
Yeah.
Right? So a good value proposition has someone coming to a website going, these are the guys for me. This is what I've been looking for.
Yeah. And I've seen that many times where, I had it with our own company's website years ago, got copied, and I emailed them because I got told about it. And I went to it and I said, look, can you at least take our name out of your website? Andrew, I saw on the social group probably a year ago, Andrew Vanderbeek from Illuminate, someone basically ripped off his website and, they still left his details in it. I mean, that's how... I know that you and I both saw this comment in a Facebook group a couple of weeks ago where someone said, look, I want to get a website. What's the cheapest one you can get? I mean, cheap is going to not attract you, the ideal client. I mean, this is your virtual shop front. I think the website these days is one of the most critical. It's a lot of the time it's the first touch. Mm-hmm. It's the first time someone looks at you and perceives you, and what that image of, it used to be walking into a reception when you used to be, I suppose, the suburban accountant, which is no longer around these days. So I think it's so critical to get that right. But so if we're looking at the who, the where, the what, you said there's 5 things. What's the logical fourth?
I'm so tempted to share some stories around each of these examples too, because there's so many case studies that we've got of people that went from being, an everyday run-of-the-mill accountants to really having people come to them. That thing about the website, a client in a webinar that we had said, our website is the front end of our business machine, not just our marketing machine, because when you're well set up with cloud and integrated apps, whether that's native integrations or using something like Zapier, that data, they come to the website, the data goes from the website to the CRM, to the proposal tool, to the workflow, to the accounting, etc. And the business owner or any of their team members aren't even doing hardly any of that data entry. So that's a phenomenal opportunity, I think. The period we are in history right now to be in business, there has never been a better time to be in business, to build something that is scalable with not needing as much labor. So that's super exciting. But in terms of the next thing, this is weird. I think it's weird. When I ask an accounting firm, what's your ideal target revenue? Because we tend to attract people who are, wanting to be on a growth curve. And so when your business is, as Michael Gerber, author of the E-Myth, he would always use the phrase, what's your business look like when it's finally done? So when it's mature, I articulate that as how big will your business be in revenue and team members when it's as big as you want it to be, when it's ideal. Because not everyone is out to build an empire, and nor should they be. A lot of people are family-based, lifestyle businesses, and that's cool. But when I say, what is that revenue figure? They can't give it to me. And I say, okay, decide now. And then they pick a figure, X million, whatever it might be. And they say, okay, what date do you want to achieve that by? Not what year, what date? An exact date you want to achieve that by. And then again, it's like, I don't know. And we work out what's realistic between now and that point in the future. So that's an endpoint. Then I ask, how many clients do you want? Because you can generate that revenue in a lot of ways. There's a great article that I share when we do the Strategy Fast Track about, it came out of Silicon Valley. When you're a software as a service company, are you hunting rabbits, deer, or elephants? Very, very different ball game there. Apologies to anyone who doesn't like the hunting reference
Terminology.
there. But, I say you can't be all things to all people in servicing client sizes, because clients of a certain size might be too large for your firm, or larger clients can think they own you. They're the people that text you at night and call you on weekends, and they're going, look, I'm paying you as much as I could be paying a staff member. You're mine. And there are plenty of clients that might be too small. So we say, okay, how many clients? Then we divide that into the revenue. There's your average. But that's not done either, because there'll always be a spectrum. We said, what we'll do is we'll split that into what's a small, what's a medium, and what's a large client in adjacent bands for the average annual fee for each of those. And then that's your sweet spot. And they say, okay, we're going to have 38 at this size, 72 at that size, and 14 at that size. And that's going to give us our target revenue. And that's just focus and specificity.
So that's in essence working out how many you need to get a year, a quarter, a month, a week, a day, so that they can then hit it. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it can all be broken down. And, I say to accountants all the time, marketing the way we do it has so much in common with accounting, because it's numbers, right? What's your website traffic? What's your website traffic? That's a number. What's your Google ranking? That's a number. What's the conversion rate of people who come to your site who end up on your list? That's a percentage, yet another number. So yes, it can all be brought back to very realistic. I'm a huge fan of weekly KPIs, because when you got monthly, someone could get away with not doing too much in the first 2 weeks and then play catch up in the second half, so to speak.
Yeah.
No one wants to be playing catch up football. So, and that gives them real power to know how many clients of what size and what's a small, medium, and large in adjacent band sizes. That's a really important point, because, if a firm thinks, oh yeah, our average client is $2,000 a year, which would be, tiny little compliance type client. Oh yeah, but I've got this other $80,000 client. Well, different systems, different communication, different expectations. It's a different business, frankly.
And I agree. So what's the fifth component then? What's the final five? The final five?
Okay, well, to recap, who, where, what, that last one I call how many, and this is all outlined in the checklist that people can download later. The fifth one, Nick, is which. So which services are you going to focus on? So by that, I mean, which services are you great at delivering and which are scalable? We give people this spreadsheet that has 6 different criteria about how easily is that resourced, how easy is it to document the processes, and a range of other things to get to a point where you work out not what are the 26 services that a firm provides, but what's the handful of services that we are going to be insanely great at, that will be delegatable, systemizable, and will generate MRR, the monthly recurring revenue. And here's the link to the previous step, Nick, is you've got small, medium, large clients in adjacent bands. The service packages get designed so that they're scalable, profitable, monthly recurring, and slot them under each of the small, medium, large. And then you've got a product to sell.
So I know that this is a lot to take in for a lot of people, and we'll break down how to simplify that at the end. Do you have a few examples of some clients that you've worked with? I know there's a couple that you've done exactly that, where they do have the small, medium, and large bands. The websites are cool. Their name's cool. The personas are very clear who they serve and who they work with. Do you have a few examples you could give us?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, one thing that I know anyone watching this live or later will have is, we don't want to put those packages on our website. You don't have to, because it might not support the desired positioning of a firm to have packages. And over the years, I've noticed, having been in the Xero circles as you have since the very early days and the very early Xerocons, Xero were big in promoting to people, you have these packages, you have these features. But when that was done poorly, what it did is it turned people into feature-based shoppers, and people going, on this package, we'll do this many transactions a month in the bookkeeping. And then people would shop around, go to another firm that's done it in that same way and go, they're giving me 85. You're only giving me 75. What a race to the bottom that is. So the packages need to be there, at least in the background, for when you're doing your own scoping, using tools like Practice Ignition, etc., to do it. So some examples, some quick ones right off the top. Our first client in delivering this methodology and teaching, if you're in Zero Circles, you probably heard of Growthwise. So Steph Hines.
Steph, I did a webinar with her a few weeks ago. She's an absolute legend.
Yeah, so there you go. So Steph, actually, in my business fitness days, I was speaking at what used to be called ATSA, the Accountants Technology Showcase Australia.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And this was, they've since sold off to the company that does the big Accountants Expo. And I was still at Business Fitness, and my presentation, because I was getting so excited about cloud and the social media, the blogging, it was called, believe it or not, 25 cloud-based marketing apps a firm should be using. 25. I should have.
25. Yeah, wow.
yeah. And I ran through them all, and I ran through things like WordPress, etc. And afterwards, this guy came up to me and said, "MC, I don't know what drugs you're on, but that was ridiculous. Why does an accounting firm need a blog? Why would an accountant bother with social media?" Turns out he was a salesperson for one of the leading websites for accountants. And I just told everyone in the room that you get a website framework for free. And anyway, I said, look, this is where it's headed. It's not where it's now. Don't worry. Because that was about 12 or 13 years ago when I did that. But anyway, the point of telling you that is the next person that came up to me, language warning, everyone. She came up to me, bright eyes, and her words were, "That was awesome."
That was Steph.
That was Steph.
How did I guess?
Yeah. And she, we had a great conversation. And then I ended up guiding her on the things that we talked about today. And on our first discussion, at the time, she was her and 2 part-time team members. She'd just taken on a lease on office space that was way bigger than what they needed. But, she had a vision. And she had 2 team members with Alan and Kirsty who had bought into that vision. Anyway, they had all these marketing ideas. And I said, wow, you guys got lots of ideas on marketing. You seem pretty savvy on marketing. How do you feel about marketing? And her word was paralyzed, because she had too many ideas, no sequence, no structure. So we got her clear on target markets. In the early days, it was people who made stuff. So people who were like trades and people who were technology, and they've evolved that a little over the years, but that was the difference. Later, she said that was the difference between night and day, getting really clear on that strategy. But just one other quick example is a firm called White and Black. Jason McDonald's his name, sole practitioner in Brisbane. His website, if you want to check them out, is whiteblack.com.au. And when he came to us, he was the usual accounting firm targeting small business advisory. And when he went through some of our frameworks, such as scalability, he worked out that his core service mix was never going to be scalable beyond him until he'd trained team member for like 5+ years. And so he saw a lack of scalability. And he also realized that he was targeting too broadly. So he chose e-commerce, Amazon type niche of Amazon resellers. And now he gets 1 to 2 inbound leads every week where they contact him through the website. They come to him. He has a face-to-face or a Zoom meeting. And Jason told me that his average client fee used to be, that few grand, that compliance piece. And now a $10,000 client's a small client, and a $20,000 client is more, a full service package.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, isn't it? That's
it's an exciting time for accountants.
So we've covered off a lot today. So we've gone pretty much right up to the time. So we've covered off the first component of the 3 gears of digital marketing being strategy. What are we going to be talking about on Friday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for anyone in Australia, and 4:30 for the West Coast in the US?
Sure.
What are we going to be covering on Friday in the second gear, which is presence?
Yes. Well, we will be protecting everyone from wasting their time, money, and energy from doing content marketing, because we'll get to that in the third gear. We'll be talking about presence. So presence is the first impressions your business makes through what is sometimes called your digital footprint. So yes, it includes your website, but it includes so much more than that across social, even how your business appears in the Google search engine results pages.
Excellent. So fully excited for that. So anyone that wants to learn more, I mean, we've covered a lot today, and it's in some cases, one of the things that I see with a lot of accounting firms is they love watching these, they love learning the content, but implementation is where they fail. And I've had it where they've come to events years and years in a row, and they're like, "Yep, cool." And I say to them, "What's changed in the last 12 months?" I just haven't had time. How can someone learn more? I know you've got some tools and resources. How can someone learn more about the strategy part? Obviously, attend Friday and next Tuesday, but what's the quickest way for them just to learn a little bit more now?
Well, based on today, I just put together a checklist. It's a simple 1-page checklist that outlines what I've run through today. And it's not even gated content. People don't have to even enter their email address to get it. If you like it and you want to talk to us, you'll contact us later. So just go to practiceparadox.com.au/strategy checklist. So I'll say that again, practiceparadox.com.au/strategy checklist. And there you can download the PDF, top right-hand corner of the screen, and you can assess for yourself how many of those 5 items are you currently nailing.
Excellent. We'll put that in the comments so anyone can just click through that if they didn't get that. So MC, as always, enjoy doing these. Look forward to another one on Friday. Same time, same place, different day, but look forward to it. And thanks for sharing your knowledge today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Nick. I've enjoyed our chat, and I'll see you and everyone else again on Friday.
See you Friday. Take care, buddy.
Cheers.
See ya.